Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Evan Freiberger, and we've got a tropical system trying to develop over here off of the eastern coast of Florida, but it's probably not going to develop there. It's probably going to try to continue to produce some thunderstorms, as we already are seeing on satellite, that eventually bring some flooding chances into Florida before moving out over into the Gulf of Mexico and possibly developing into a tropical storm or a tropical depression. As of right now, we're talking about a 20% chance of this storm forming in this general area, kind of in the northern northeastern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, one of the things that kind of concerns me about where this storm is going, but hopefully the sheer environment and the dry air in the area is going to keep this thing at bay. But I can tell you, this is just an example of a storm that could enter into an environment where our unpredictability kind of goes up a little bit. You can see we have 30 to 31 degrees Celsius and maybe even some pockets there of 32 degrees Celsius water temperatures here out in the Gulf of Mexico. So it is warm, it is hot, and it is ready to go for tropical development. And if this storm can kind of stay out over into the Gulf of Mexico and not really go into the land immediately, this thing may have some time to develop. And because of this, this is certainly a storm to keep an eye on. Now, in terms of our ensemble means, or basically looking at our models and kind of trying to predict the future here by using a bunch of different model runs at once to make kind of an average. And as I push this forward, you can see as we go into about Wednesday, potentially could have a couple of members here showing a tropical storm. You can see we got one with an 11 on there. That's not really that strong. 97, that would be like potentially a strong tropical storm, and a 00, which is also maybe a tropical depression or a tropical to storm. There's only about 3 members out of about 30 here that develop, and it is showing a signal, but as of right now, it's kind of a weak signal here from the EPS. But as you can see, there is some potential if this thing can kind of hang out over water that it could get stronger. I mean, we have a couple of members there that are reaching close to either hurricane strength or tropical storm strength. But again, these are only 3 members out of about 30 model runs. Typically, when we have high confidence, we'll have about like 10 to 15 members out over here showing us kind of the same thing. So as of right now, it's still kind of in the low confidence area of our forecast. Now, if we come over to the GEFS ensemble, you can see we have a little bit of a bigger signal out of from the GEFS. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 signals, but you can also see that they're coming in a little bit weaker. It starts off over there on the western coast of Florida, kind of moves and meanders. And we do have some members that kind of keep this thing south of Louisiana, with a lot of them trying to bring it in to Mississippi or the coast of Alabama, maybe even into the panhandle of Florida as a weaker system. Now, one of the things that this model is definitely showing us here is that if we have a storm develop on the western portion of Florida and kind of just track off in this direction and then directly go into land, that is going to be our weaker scenario. But if we have this system come over Florida, drop a lot of rain, potentially some flooding, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, and then pushing out over into the Gulf of Mexico and staying in the Gulf of Mexico, especially where those really warm waters are, even in an environment where there is some decent shear, this thing could still form into a tropical storm. And if it really hangs out here, maybe even into a hurricane. So really got to monitor where these ensembles try to take this thing. Now, if we look at some of our deterministic models, you can see that, by around Wednesday, the GFS tries to form this, but then it directly brings it into Mississippi or Louisiana. Now, keep in mind, these are just one model run, so we're going to have a bunch of different solutions here. Our most bullish model kind of shows our stronger scenario. As you can see, low pressure system forms off of there of western Florida and tracks and just kind of stays out into that warm water, potentially strengthening all the way into a hurricane before making landfall into Texas and Louisiana. So you can see that we do have some pretty big disagreements between our models. And again, all of that has to do with whether this thing goes into land or stays out over the Gulf of Mexico. But that really does just show you the kind of differences and what could happen here. This could actually end up being our first hurricane of the year. This could also be a very weak tropical depression. So make sure you're staying up to date on our latest updates with this tropical system. And looking at other things, we have a couple of areas of severe weather possible, like back over here today. It crossed Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, Minnesota, going into Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. As you can see, we're going to have a little bit of a frontal boundary kind of draped down here, maybe some thunderstorms by around 11 p.m. before they kind of fall apart. Pretty conditional day up there. We also have a slight risk for severe weather back over here near New York and Pennsylvania. And you can see as we go into about 12 to 4 p.m., we could see some storms develop. We're not really expecting much of a tornado risk at all out of any of these storms, but some damaging winds and some hail is going to be possible as that moves across. And again, it's going to be mainly a frontal boundary, kind of starting off on the eastern side of this. By around 7 p.m. is in central Pennsylvania, down into central Virginia, and then over here in New York as well. And then as we go into about 11 p.m., we still could have some lingering severe weather back over here near the Baltimore and Washington region. But by 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., that's going to be kind of fizzling there. Back over here near Florida, you can see we have that area of spin. That's going to be bringing, some rain and showers down here, potentially even some severe weather over there near Deltona and Orlando. Going to be watching out for some flooding out here. And then back over here, more into the central portion of our country, I could see a couple of storms fire by around 6 p.m. And then, maybe some little instances of some damaging winds, especially like back over here near Hot Springs and Little Rock. Also watching down here for some flooding to continue. You see, we just have rain over rain over rain continuing throughout the day today, south of Waco near Round Rock and College Station. Speaking of flooding, we do have a moderate risk where all that rain is training over for today. Looks like it might be a little bit too far to the north. HRRR is kind of shifting that precipitation a little bit further to the south and therefore shifting our amounts. Coming to total precipitation here, you can see we have a couple isolated spots here of anywhere from 4 to 5, maybe even 6 inches, getting close to 7 inches in some of these spots. And this is going to fall pretty quickly. If you live anywhere around like the Killeen, Round Rock, Austin, north of College Station, maybe even back over here north of San Antonio, I'd keep your eye out for some flooding. Peak temperatures today look really hot over here in the Pacific Northwest. We are talking about widespread areas of about 100 degrees possible there from Phoenix back over to just west of Las Vegas into California kind of desert area. So watch out. It's going to be really hot over here and then still kind of pretty darn hot over here into the eastern portion of the United States with 80s to 90s, potentially extending all the way up into the central United States like Montana, going all the way up there into Canada, as well as we have a ridge start to set up over here, really bringing those temperatures 80s and 90s across to most people today. Eventually, as we go into the nighttime, it's going to cool down a little bit, but stay actually a little bit warmer down here in the southeast. Still could be in the 80s going into tonight. Early morning at around 4 a.m., 60s across most of the area going into the overnight hours as well. Now, as we go into tomorrow, things kind of calm down a little bit, but there still is a little bit of severe weather possible starting at around 6 p.m. south of Rapid City, 9 p.m. going through Rapid City near Pierre. The main thing we're going to be talking about here is damaging winds, probably a low chance for some hail, but I would still keep an eye out for it. By 1 a.m., we really shouldn't be talking about much except for some thunderstorms possible over there near Grand Forks where things can get a little bit interesting over there. Some damaging winds and potentially hail possible. In terms of flooding, we're really watching out down here into Florida. You can see, still got this general area of spin, really bringing a couple of rain and showers all the way down through the Florida area. I mean, we could be talking about inches of rain out here from Orlando all the way down to Miami, where we're going to have multiple areas of storms convect as soon as that daytime heating picks up. And that's probably going to happen the next day as well. And it's going to be raining pretty much the entire day for a lot of people. And as you can see, a lot of Florida is under 5 inches of rain here, and even some isolated pockets of 6, almost 7 inches. So really like in this pocket, kind of like central to western Florida, then also some areas near the coast as well could get in on some of those 4 to 5 inches of rain as well. So I'll be keeping your eye out there for those flooding chances. Again, really starting at around 6 a.m. tomorrow, it's just going to keep on raining and raining all throughout the day. Now, in terms of our temperatures for tomorrow, it's going to cool down a little bit there in Texas as we get some more rain, unfortunately, in areas that really don't need it. Also, going to be pretty darn hot all the way up there in South Dakota, going into Montana with some 90s to almost 100-degree temperatures in some spots. Still really hot in the Pacific Southwest and cooling down a little bit as we get a little bit more rain develop out over here into the southeast, going up into the northeast as well, before eventually cooling down as we go into the nighttime hours. That's going to be it for me today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It does help us grow a lot. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys tomorrow, probably with another tropical update. See you then.